Hey everyone, thanks for joining. It's Corey with Blue Falcon Board Gaming. If you're new to the channel, I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran that started the Blue Falcon Board Gaming Group in the Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia tri-state area with the hopes of promoting positive mental health through board gaming, as well as to make board games more accessible to the community by hosting and co-hosting free events, doing giveaways, and other things just to get people interested in games. Today, I am joined by Jason Martin of the Champion faction. Jason, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we're doing the interview because you were elected to be one of the content creators in the Stonemaier Charity Auction this year.
Yeah,
So we want to learn a little bit about you, about your channel, and then the charity of choice of yours. So can you start out giving us a little bit of background on yourself? Maybe who's
sure.
Jason on a normal day?
Yeah, well, my name is Jason Martin. My day job is that I teach counseling and psychotherapy at a small liberal arts university in Central Texas. I live actually in Belton, Texas, which is about an hour north or hour 45 minutes north of Austin. And I, I my day job, like I said, is I teach at a university at the graduate level, but I also have a private practice where I um, am a therapist and primarily specializing in couples and relational work. But I also work with teenagers and individuals as well. Um, I I'm married. My wife is not that into gaming, but she will humor me periodically to sit down and play something, especially now that I have two kids who are both in college right now and have moved out of the house. So my son, Aiden, is a junior at Abilene Christian University, and then my daughter is a freshman at Texas Christian University. And my son actually will sit down and play a game of Scythe with me almost anytime we get together. He's not big into board gaming, but he loves Scythe, so I'm good with that.
Yeah, my wife isn't a big gamer either. So I always joke that the currency of any relationship is back rubs and board games.
Yeah,
So it's like if I want to do something, I'm like, I'll give you a back rub or whatever. And then she
uh-huh.
wants, if she wants to go out somewhere that I'm not particularly fond of, she's like, I'll play a board game with you when we get back. So
Yeah. I've I've made those exact same deals from time to time. Actually, her favorite game to play is Ticket to Ride, and with the new Legacy Ticket to Ride coming out, I have this dream of being able to play through an entire Legacy campaign with her of Ticket to Ride. I don't know if it'll actually happen. I don't know if she'll, have the patience to want to do an entire campaign, but I'm going to give it a try at least.
yeah. So how did you get into board games? What was your introduction to that?
Oh,
Maybe more specifically, like modern board games.
yeah, good question. So, when like I mentioned, I have two kids in college. When they were much younger, I decided that at Christmas every year I would get a new board game for the family to play, and and that was really before. I mean, I had played board games as a kid and really enjoyed them, but it really wasn't something that I followed or kept up with in terms of uh, the new and interesting kind of more complex games that have come around and that aren't the mass market games. But when my kids were younger, I thought I want to get, I want us to play games around the holidays. And so I'm just going to get at least one game every year around the holidays. And so one year we got Pandemic, and another year we got let's see, we did get Ticket to Ride, and we got Catan Family Edition, which I didn't know at the time was very different, or not very different, but it was a much more simplified version of Settlers of Catan. And then another year I got what was it, the Forbidden Island, I think. And as I was playing those, I was like, hey, these are really kind of interesting games and very different from some of the games that I had played as a kid. And, they weren't like super complex, although Pandemic at the time felt a little bit more complex. But then I found out about Kickstarter, and found out that there were games that were like new games that were being sold, produced through Kickstarter. I think I try not to talk about Kickstarter as if it's a store, because it's not that, but I found out about that, and then that's really where I fell down the rabbit hole, was when I found out about Kickstarter and that all these different games were crowdfunded on Kickstarter and getting into that. That was right after, Scythe had already been fully funded, and I think was delivering to backers around that time. And I saw the art, and I saw the world building of the game Scythe, and that just really enthralled me. And so for Christmas that year, I got that for myself. I didn't know if anybody else in my family would want to play it, but I wanted it, and so it was the year that it was the first, whatever year that was first available at retail. I wasn't on the crowdfunding, but I got an early retail copy, and that's really what kind of took off for me. And in the years since, I've really been able to refine my taste. Kickstarter can be a really dangerous thing for a new board gamer who doesn't really know what kind of games they like and what they don't like yet. And so I ended up buying a lot of games that I eventually realized I don't really like this kind of game, or I don't really like this theming. And I eventually kind of came back around to like Stonemaier Games in particular has a design aesthetic, has a design philosophy and a production philosophy that I really appreciate. And so I decided, and I wanted to kind of share some of my thoughts about it. So, however long ago it was, a year or maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, whenever it was, I decided to just start a YouTube channel where I would share my thoughts specifically on Stonemaier Games. I didn't feel like I had the time to devote to board gaming in general, or all the stuff that could be done. And I felt like there was enough to talk about with regards to Stonemaier all by itself that I could have a channel just dedicated to that. And so the Champion faction was born, and I make videos and post on Instagram when I think about it and when I have time to do so. And sometimes that means I may go a couple of months without anything, but that's kind of the way it goes. So I do reviews and mostly solo playthroughs. I'll get a multiplayer playthrough at some point. I do like a lot of solo board gaming, which also is a reason why I like Stonemaier, because their solo modes are all really good because of Automa Factory. And I've actually been a playtester for some of the Automa Factory's solo implementations, so that's been fun as well.
Yeah, so do you want to give the background of the name of the channel, the Champion Faction? I have a feeling I know what it is, but just for maybe everybody watching.
Well, like I said, Scythe was the game that got me into that really got me into the hobby. And you have your different factions associated with Scythe, and so then also Stonemaier's kind of membership is the Champions, Stonemaier Champions. And so I don't know, when I was thinking about a name, I wanted something that linked me to Stonemaier Games in some way. And, and the faction concept, that's kind of like I think of it inside as your faction is your niche within that world. It is the thing that you are controlling. There's something unique about you. And so my thing on the internet my unique thing is that, I just talk about Stonemaier and what I think about that. And that's my niche. And so I thought of myself as kind of that faction, and seeing as how, the fans of Stonemaier, that, the membership that we have is called the Stonemaier Champions, it just made sense to go with the Champion faction.
Yeah, and for anyone watching or listening that isn't a Stonemaier Champion, it's a great thing. It's like $25 a year or something like that. But anytime they release a new product on top of the normal like launch week sale that they do, like your discount will stack on top of that. And I think it's either 20 or 25% for Champions. I can't remember the exact number.
Yeah, I
but
don't remember the exact.
It's either 20 or 25.
I don't remember the exact number, but I've done the math, and if you buy like sometimes one, if it's an expensive product like the Expedition Ironclad Edition, or a game like Tapestry, it will pay for itself pretty much with the discount you get on that one purchase. Um, but even if you don't buy something that expensive, if you buy like maybe two things from their web store over the course of a year, and they release, at least one brand new game, sometimes two, and a couple of expansions every year. So if you're buying a lot of Stonemaier stuff, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, plus you get like little emails and everything too that kind of give you
Oh
a
yeah.
sneak peek before they're announced. So I mean, there's plenty of perks to it, but the discount's huge. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a significant discount. It's not just like here's 5-10% off. And then with some of the product launches too, I believe with the new games and everything, it'll also give you free shipping within that first week or so whenever they do the
Yep.
typical product launch.
Yeah. And you get
So
a Stonemaier champion every year, t-shirt. You get a Champions t-shirt
yeah.
that you can buy every year. You don't get it for free, but you have the opportunity to buy it. I like those.
Well, there is a thing though to where if you teach a Stonemaier game and you're wearing the
Yes.
shirt and you send them the picture, they will reimburse you for the shirt.
Yes. That's like at conventions, right?
I think it's just kind of in general. I
In
mean, I
general.
wouldn't do it like at the house or something, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if you're out and about and you're teaching a game, then
Mm-hmm.
it's a great way to get their brand out there. And I think the way that Jamie does his marketing with that is pretty ingenious.
Yeah, I've never taken advantage of that opportunity, but maybe I should sometime.
So, what's your favorite faction to play in Scythe?
Oh, that's a difficult question to answer because I actually like a lot of them. Contrary to what a lot of people say, I actually enjoy playing the Nordic faction. I like being able to kind of spread out my workers by their swim ability before I'm able to necessarily get a mech out. I don't know that I have a favorite per se. My son always plays Clan Albion. I'm not sure why. I think he just kind of likes their look, the green color. But he always plays Clan Albion. Actually, I think honestly, I don't know how much I want to spoil it, but for people who may not have played it yet, but the Rise of Fenris has a faction that I probably would say is my favorite.
I'd like Polania. I will,
Yeah.
if I get the chance, because I love the submerge ability of just being able to jump lake to lake.
Man, that
Because
is harsh to play against. Yeah.
If you get submerge and the camaraderie unlocked to where you don't lose popularity for running off their workers or anything,
Yes.
and somebody just leaves a big old pile of resources right next to a lake,
Yep.
you just bloop, pop up, steal them, and the next turn, get out of there.
Yep. Yeah, I don't play with that one a lot, but I have I've actually made the mistake of when I've played against someone who's Polania, made the mistake of really underestimating how powerful that combination can be. Yeah, I've lost some games pretty handily because I just neglected to pay attention to that kind of stuff.
Well, plus you get the double encounters as well. So instead of only picking one of three options, you get to pick two of three options, and that can be insane if you get the right cards. The last time I played, I probably picked up 7 or 8 of the encounter tokens out of like the 13 or 14 that are out, but none of them were like the good ones.
Oh,
it was just
no.
like, you gain like one resource and or you gain a popularity or a combat. It wasn't like, hey, build a structure here for $2.
Yeah. That the encounter cards, even if it doesn't really mesh with the particular faction that I'm working with, I'm always drawn to getting more encounter tokens and getting those cards, just because I honestly think that might be my favorite element of Scythe, is just that you it's a surprise as to what's on the card, but then you have this choice, and the choices, I'll have to say that the Encounters expansion, where they had the kind of weird encounter cards, I don't really care for a lot of those because some of them are so circumstantial as to how helpful they'll be that I don't really care for that. But the base ones that came with the original game, those encounter cards are just so much fun and so exciting to be able to get and be able to choose what you're doing. And you're right, if you have the that one faction, you can choose two, and that's even more enthralling to go for it. But even if I don't have that and I'm only getting one, I just am drawn to that. Sometimes I have to force myself to not go for that if it's not, part of the strategy that I need to try to win.
Mm-hmm. So with you being a therapist, have you ever heard of Game to Grow?
No, I haven't actually.
So they are an organization and they've got a book out now, but it's therapeutically applied role-playing games.
Oh, yes,
So
I have heard about that.
Yeah.
I forgot I have a couple of students who started a therapeutic D&D group at the university where I teach for kids with autism, like high functioning autism, and to help develop social skills. And they used that book as a kind of a guide of a lot of what to implement. Yeah, I didn't recognize it off the top of my head, but yeah, I do know about that.
Yeah, it's been great because they've got I think their classes are on like a suspension right now type thing. They're holding off to try to revamp it a little bit.
Yeah.
But they have like a community tree. So it's like if you're just a community member, you can do this. They have a more academic tree to where if you're a teacher or you're in the school system, it's more focused toward that. And then they have an actual like therapy tree to where, it counts as CUEs and everything for or continuing education unit. So CEU.
Yeah.
It counts as for, your yearly requirements and everything for your therapy license and all of that.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It talks, a lot about different ways to get people engaged in it without them realizing not necessarily like realizing what you're doing, but just making it more open to conversation and stuff like that. But then also it talks about how they've used it for different juvenile programs to where they use it kind of as a safe space to teach consequence. Because I feel like with anybody kind of starting D&D, if they have any type of, rebellious hair on them, they're going to be a murder hobo their first few campaigns. And they quickly learn like, oh, if I do this, then bad stuff happens to me. Like I start to get tracked down and all of this, and it makes my character's life a lot harder.
Right.
So, they help them learn consequences and future planning and stuff like that through it as well.
Yeah, that's great. And anything that can kind of help people, I think anything that can help people step outside their own experiences, either to kind of validate themselves or to kind of be able to grow in empathy of other people and interpersonal effectiveness. I think anything like that is great. And I think gaming is a great role-playing games in particular, but even tabletop gaming can be able to do that, to develop empathy and a sense of cooperation. And how do you pursue your goals in an effective manner? Well, a lot of times it means kind of cooperating with others, or at least trying to understand what other people are experiencing, what they're going through, what their needs are. And I think gaming is a good way to illustrate that many times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I prefer board games over RPGs just because with RPGs, it's very sandboxy and you just have people can do whatever they want basically.
Yeah.
As opposed to like board games, it's like, okay, we're all sitting down for the next hour. We're agreeing to this very specific rule set.
Yes.
We're all going to abide by this.
Yes.
If we don't abide by it, we're comfortable calling each other out on it. Like, hey, you can't do that because the rules say this. Versus, in everyday life, I always say like, it's crazy to me that we just trust people to drive 75 miles an hour and stay within their lines. Like,
Yeah, I'm the same way. I have a great appreciation for role-playing games, tabletop role-playing games, and I can definitely see the appeal. For me personally, a lot of people like the role playing games because of the creativity that they can have to create a character and to kind of really tell a creative story. That kind of stuff just doesn't appeal to me. I see the appeal and I see that why people can be into it and interested in it. And I've actually I've done it before myself, but it just doesn't appeal to me. Like you said, I like the rules of the board game that keep things not necessarily on rails, but just keep things within a particular framework. And I think I like the puzzle of board gaming, and how do I achieve a particular goal given these set of restrictions. And that concept is really what draws me to board gaming in particular.
Yeah. So as a couple therapist, what would you recommend for 2-player games?
Well, I mean, as with any kind of recommendation, it depends highly on the interest level and what people want to get out of gaming. I mean, if people want like a deep thinky experience, that's going to be a very different game than something that two people play just to casually hang out together. So like I said, I have my wife is not much into board gaming, but she'll play games with me periodically. She has never and probably will never play Scythe or anything that heavy. But when I do get to play with her, Azul has been really good. Playing Azul with 3 or 4 players is fun, but she and I have had fun playing Azul one-on-one. I tried playing Seven Wonders Duel with her, which I love. That's a great 2-player game. Seven Wonders Duel, as I think most people know. She wasn't that into it. I think that required a bit too much. I don't know, just remembering of various rules. That's one thing she doesn't like. When she plays a game, she wants a simple rule set that she doesn't have to think about, that she can immediately forget and then relearn in a few months or a few weeks, and that's it. But Azul, let's see. Oh, some button shy games she likes. So there's one, Seasons of Rice, that we've played, and Circle the Wagons. Let's see, there's 1 or 2 other, like those little button shy 18 card wallet games. There are a few 2-player games in there that are really good. Trying to remember what else. My mind's blinking right now, but those are a few that come to mind. I know that there are a few that she does enjoy playing, and now this isn't a game that my wife would play, but yesterday I had some friends over. We were playing. We actually played Apiary for the first time, and afterwards, one of the people who was here, we played the Star Wars deck building game. I had recently gotten that. That's a 2-player, deck building game, and I had a lot of fun with that. So that was good. It was quick. It was easy. He had never played it before, and so I taught it to him pretty quickly. And so that was a good 2-player game as well. I think in terms of like relational well-being and relational health, I think what you want to look for in a 2-player game is something that gives a high degree of interaction, but also kind of matches what the players want in the experience, not just in a gaming experience, but in their relational experience. So again, do they want to just kind of casually be able to do something back and forth? Do they want like a gaming experience, something that will bring some surprise and some amount of novelty or excitement to a gaming experience? Or do they want like a story? Some 2-player games have something of a story to it and can tell a story. Of course, you can always play classic games like backgammon or chess or things like that. Cribbage, I think, is a good 2-player game. But sometimes that may not be what the particular couple is looking for in the relationship, whether that's a friendship or spouses or partners, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I think those are some of the factors that I look for in 2-player games, depending on specifically what 2 players we're talking about.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned your wife with the rules, not wanting to learn a lot of rules.
Yeah.
I think that's the same thing that holds my wife back, because
Hmm.
I've told her before. I'm like, it's not that you don't like board games, you don't like learning new board games or new
Right.
rules. Because like, she'll play Wingspan with me, she'll play Parks with me, she'll play King
Hmm.
of Tokyo. There's some few other games that I can kind of get her to play without too much of like begging,
Yeah. Oh,
basically.
Cascadia was also a hit. I forgot about that one. Cascadia,
Mhm.
she really liked that one. And again, simple rule set, but a lot of strategy can be implemented in that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting close to 30 minutes here, so I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure.
So, for anybody that's not aware, Stonemaier Charity Auction will be coming up in November.
Hmm.
And each year, Jamie from Stonemaier Games picks 10 content creators who he wants other people to know about, and then they select a charity. And this year, you were selected
Hmm.
as one of the 10, and then you had selected the Maui Strong Fund. You want to
Yeah.
talk about that charity, what they do, and why you selected it?
Sure. Well, I was really surprised and honored when Jamie reached out to me and asked if I would select a charity and be part of the charity auction. And I really had to kind of sit back and think about, okay, what charity do I want to support? And there are a lot of different causes that I'm particularly interested in. Um, but I decided to go with the Maui Strong Fund because, well, let me back up a little bit. Uh, as I mentioned, my daughter's a freshman in college this year. For her senior graduation trip, my wife and I took her to Maui back in July. Actually, about 3 weeks before the massive fires that were there. We were there about 3 weeks before that, and we actually were in Lahaina. We stayed in a hotel resort just up the coast from Lahaina a little bit, and and it was a great trip. It wasn't just because it was beautiful and on the beach and you're in Hawaii, but it was also really cool because of the people we met. And usually when we go on vacation, we don't necessarily interact with a lot of the local people wherever we go for whatever reason, but we did this time, and we met, whether it was Uber drivers or whether it was the waiters at the restaurants or just kind of like people we ran into. We bought like this little art print from an art show that was going on, and we met the artist and was able to talk to him and kind of hear a little bit about his life. And so we got to know the people there. I'm actually taking piano lessons right now in my mid 40s, trying to learn how to play piano. And while I was there, I wanted to find a place to practice piano. And so I found this music school, the Maui Music School, or Maui Music Mission is what it's called. It was located in a mall there in Lahaina, and he let me use his piano for an hour to practice, just to kind of hang out there for a while. And and then he and I just chatted about him being a music teacher and all that kind of stuff, and it was great. And then when the fires came, um, it was mind blowing how much devastation happened. And having just been there, we were watching the videos and the images that were coming back from the destruction, and we had been in those places. We had, you know, uh, my wife and daughter and I got matching tattoos at a tattoo parlor that was right there in downtown Lahaina, and it's now destroyed. And the harbor where we took a snorkeling tour out, the harbor and probably the boat itself that we were on is destroyed. One day I walked around the public library that was there in downtown, and it's destroyed. Like, so much destruction. Also, coincidentally, one of my coworkers at the university, his wife is from Lahaina, grew up there, and her parents and her brother still live there. They got out safe, although communication was down for a while, so they didn't hear from them. But their entire home and property was destroyed. I went to a local brewery, the Kahola Brewery. I'm into craft beer, so I try to hit breweries when I'm out places, and that brewery was destroyed. I saw an interview with the owner of the brewery, and he said, "You know what? We have insurance. We're going to rebuild. We'll be okay." But this community is devastated. So much history, so much tradition, so much of the community identity has been just devastated. And so a couple of times I've tried to make small donations to try to help where I could. The Maui Music Mission, they have a website where I donated some money there to help them rebuild. And the Maui Strong Fund just felt like the right, at least at this point in time in this year, the Maui Strong Fund, which is hosted by the Hawaii Community Foundation, that felt like the right charity to really support, to help that community. I mean, I've never seen anything like that, certainly not in my lifetime in the United States, where an entire community was just like utterly devastated, beyond recognition. Maybe the closest would be maybe like New Orleans with Katrina. It really reminded me of that level of devastation. Now, smaller community, New Orleans is a much larger city, but still just complete devastation. So many people, a lot of people died, but so many more just had their livelihoods, their lives, their houses, their communities just utterly demolished, beyond recognition. And so that's why I wanted to go with them.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine something, as tragic as that happening to any community or anything. Around here, there's been a lot of, flooding and stuff that's wiped out basically entire towns and everything.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that, you see the aftermath of and you're just like, wow. Like,
yeah. It's just, I mean,
there's really nothing else to say.
Yeah. You can't fathom, like, unless you're in the situation, it's hard to even fathom how are they going on. And they are, they're persevering as people do. But it's just, it's one of the most tragic kind of outcomes that you could imagine for a community like that.
Yeah. All right. So before we end here, I want to see if you can dethrone our current Family Feud champion.
Okay.
You'll need 249 points to dethrone Matthew from Envyborn Games. So there's only 5 questions.
Okay.
Act like you've got 20 seconds or something. We're not going to throw up a real timer.
Okay.
So name something that you see outside that would make you want to stay inside.
Something that I would see outside that would make me want to stay inside. Probably a tornado.
Okay. Name something a vampire might ask the dentist to do to his fangs.
Sharpen them.
Okay. Name an occupation that begins with the letter J.
Janitor.
Okay. Name something that people change on a regular basis.
Their underwear.
Okay. And then name something people use a paper bag for.
Groceries.
Okay. All right. So I think Matthew might be in trouble here.
Oh, wow.
So name something that you see outside that would make you want to stay inside. You said a tornado. That was number 1 answer at 71 points.
Okay.
Something a vampire might ask the dentist to do. You said sharpen. That was number 1 at 76. Name an occupation that begins with the letter J. You had said janitor, correct?
Yes. Yes.
That's number 1 answer at 62 points.
Wow.
Yeah, he's in trouble. Name something that people change on a regular basis. You said their underwear, so we'll count that as their clothes, which is number 1 answer at 78. And then name something people use a paper bag for. You had said groceries. That's number 2 at 24. So you are our new champion at 311 points.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah, you got number 1 answer on 4 of the 5 questions.
Wow.
So after like 5 interviews, I think, Matthew from Envyborn Games has finally been dethroned. And now we've got the champion faction as the new champion.
Wow, I feel
It
honored.
seems
Quite
appropriate.
honored. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
there's no
thanks.
trophy or anything. It's just recognition.
Hey man, I'll take it. That's prize enough. Just the recognition as being the champion. Yeah. At least until I'm dethroned at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. So, anything you want to plug before we jump off here? Any particular website, social media channels, anything like that? Where can people find you?
Yeah, well, I'm on YouTube as the Champion Faction, and Instagram just Champion Faction, no V, and those are the two places where I post most often. I try to get gaming videos up at least once a month. That definitely doesn't always happen. In fact, there was a period of about 4 or 5 months where I didn't post anything. But I'm trying to get that kind of rolling again of having, a video a month. And I, post photos of my, Champion Faction. The YouTube channel is all Stonemaier Games. The Instagram account is a little bit more diverse. I'll just post pictures periodically of whatever games I'm playing in the moment. And so that's where you can find me.
All right, sounds great. Well, Jason, I appreciate the time. Appreciate you taking time out of your day here to do the interview with me to learn more
Yeah.
about you and the Champion faction.
Thanks for having me on. I'm really glad to do it, and it was good talking with you today.
Absolutely, thanks.